This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, and today we're talking all about how coronavirus is going to impact your retail or e-commerce business. Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, where I, Selena Knight, share strategies, interview retail revolutionaries, and delve into the minds of e-commerce experts to help you grow a profitable, independent retail or e-commerce business. If you're stuck in a rut, or if you feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've overachieved all of the things that you've set out to and are wondering what to do next, or how do I even make this better? I know that you're going to love today's episode. If you're stuck in a rut, feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've achieved all of the things that you set out to and are wondering what next, or how do I even make this better, then I know that you're going to love today's episode. Now, I don't know about you, but when I've been to the grocery store in the last 2 weeks, the shelves have pretty much been devoid of toilet paper, tissues, hand sanitizer, disinfectant, pasta, and rice. Contrary to all of the factual information that is out there, people are stockpiling whatever they can get their hands on. And to be honest, I just don't know what you're going to do with 400 rolls of toilet paper. I mean, we subscribe to Who Gives a Crap, which sends us 48 double rolls in a big box. And we go through 2 boxes a year in our household. And that includes taking some of that toilet paper down to our Airbnb. So I'm not sure why people are so fearful that they're going to run out of the basic necessities if they happen to get isolated because of coronavirus. At the end of the day, we have home delivery. We have Amazon. Someone can still deliver your groceries to the front door of your house and walk away without fear of infection. We are much more on top of this than when the first outbreaks happened in China and whole cities were locked down. And whilst you should be cautious and mindful, you don't need to be living in fear. In fact, fear brings out the worst in people, and we're seeing that just by this stockpiling of basic groceries. I mean, when someone can't go to the grocery store and buy a roll of toilet paper, then you know that we as society have a problem. So you'd have to be living under a rock to not have heard about how the global supply chain has been disrupted because of the coronavirus pandemic. On February 17, so less than a month ago, Apple announced that it expected its quarterly earnings to be lower than previously expected. And that was because of 2 challenges. The first one was because of a constrained global supply of iPhones. That's obvious because the factories had shut down to make the components. And the second reason that they're expecting their earnings to be lower was that there was a significant demand in the Chinese markets. So this just goes to show us that it doesn't matter how big your retail or e-commerce business is, you are likely going to be affected in some way, shape or form by coronavirus. Now, it's not just cars and electronics that are feeling the pinch. Fabrics, even the active ingredients in pharmaceuticals are being affected. Homewares, pretty much any component that you could possibly think of is likely to be disrupted in the weeks and months ahead. So it doesn't matter if you are a product manufacturer, a vendor, a supplier, a retailer, or a pure play e-commerce store, sooner or later, it's a fact, at least some of your lines are going to be affected. Now, globally, the supply chain has been disrupted. 94% of the Fortune 1000 companies are seeing coronavirus supply chain disruptions. That is massive. That is pretty much every Fortune 1000 company is seeing an impact on their supply chain because of this. So if you're in retail right now, you might be in for a rude shock in the coming few weeks and months. I'm going to go and be so bold as to say right through till the end of the year. And it is scary to think about this, but the Christmas season that starts pretty much in August, that's when you start to market and put those feelers out for the Christmas purchases. That is only just over 4 months away. And when you think about how long it takes stock to get to your country, and I'm thinking most of the people who listen to this podcast are in the US, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So for the stock to get to us, it takes at least 30 days by sea. And then it has to go through quarantine, it has to go through customs, and it has to be delivered. So you're looking at around minimum 6 to 8 weeks before you get any stock. Now, I was reading a Harvard Business Review article, and they were saying that they predicted that the peak of the impact of coronavirus on global supply chains will occur mid-March. That's right now, forcing thousands of companies to throttle down or temporarily shut down assembly and manufacturing plants in the US and Europe. So we're not talking about the actual manufacturing over in China, but because so many components come from China, it is having this on-flow effect. It is affecting those manufacturing plants in just about every single country. And Harvard Business Review was saying that the most vulnerable companies are those which rely heavily or solely on those factories in China for parts and materials. Because the activity of the Chinese manufacturing plants has been so low. Remember, we had Chinese New Year and then pretty much coronavirus hit. So a lot of factories have been economically depressed for months. Now, the Hyundai car manufacturer said that it had suspended its production lines operating at its plants in Korea due to the disruptions in the supply from the coronavirus, because their supply chain from the parts coming out of China aren't getting to them. They can't manufacture the vehicles. So how do you, the independent retail or e-commerce store owner, actually mitigate losses or potential losses as a result of this global supply chain disruption? I'm going to share with you some examples of what you can be doing right now to be proactive rather than reactive. Because remember what I just said earlier? The Harvard Business Review were speculating that right now is going to be the peak of when products aren't going to be produced. And because those manufacturing plants have been closed down for months, you can imagine what the backlog is going to be like when they finally get back up and running again. And let's be honest, it's not going to be at 100% right from the beginning now, is it? And then there are the flow-on effects. The ports are affected, the customs agents are affected, the logistics people are affected. So all of those things are going to provide that perfect storm of you not being able to get stock. So here are my suggestions of what you can do to mitigate any potential losses. Now, this is the time when you must be nimble. You must have a marketing plan, but also be prepared to switch out products if you can't access the stock that you had originally intended to market. And this is one of the advantages that you have as an independent retailer. You can be nimble. You can react to the market without having a dozen levels of hierarchy to deal with. So whilst those big businesses are fumbling along, having sales trying to get customers in the door, you can be testing the market and leveraging different products and different situations as they arrive. You are fast, you are quick, and if you stay on top of what is happening in marketing and in the economy, you will be able to leverage that so that you get the sales. So you must have a marketing plan. You must have some idea of what you're going to market and when. Otherwise, you're going to be in this situation where everything is reactive, and that causes constant stress. Trust me, I know. I have been in the position where I was forcing that onto my team. Let's do this. Let's do this. Oh, I just read about this. Let's go and market that. And it is exhausting. You never end up with a perfect marketing campaign because you are flying by the seat of your pants. You never get the full return on investment, and you stress everybody out in the process. This is not a time when we want to be stressing everybody out, okay? So a marketing plan is a must. Next up, you have to embrace collaboration. And I'm not talking here about that social media type collaboration with influencers. You need to be collaborating with, dare I say it, your competitors. And I know this is going to be really uncomfortable for a lot of you. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll know that my creative director, Elizabeth, was actually my competition. We opened our stores selling a very niche product. In fact, we were the only 2 stores in Australia who sold these products. We opened our stores within 2 weeks of each other. We were in competition for years. And in fact, we ended up selling our businesses within a month of each other, and we became amazing friends in the process. So this is when you have to stop this protectionist blinkers that so many retail and e-commerce business owners stick on, because the only person that that's going to affect is you, and the flow-on effect is going to be it affects your customers. So when I say collaborate with your competitors, think about what works well for you, what sells well for you, because I know from experience that it might not sell well for another store. They see it, they think their customers would like it, but it's still sitting on the shelf. It's either sitting in the stock room or it's sitting in a warehouse, and it just doesn't move. This is because we all have different customers. You attract a tribe that loves your store and loves what you sell. So it is time for you, when you're affected by this supply chain disruption, to be nimble and to get on the phone and contact your competitors and see if they want to swap out some stock. See what you can give them and what they can give you in return to keep your customers happy. Now, I do have a fallback if you don't feel comfortable doing this, and that is to try reaching out and speaking to your suppliers and asking them to do the dirty work for you, to get them to reach out and see if they can do some stock shuffling between stores. So you can ask them to contact other stores and see if they would be willing to move some stock around. You tell them what you've got that isn't moving, and they can go and farm that stock out to other stores. This is a win-win-win. It is a win for you to get rid of slow-moving stock. It's a win for the supplier or the vendor or the distributor, because now they have something that they can sell, and it's a win for the store at the other end, who now has a product that can make them some money. So don't ever be afraid to collaborate. Now, while you're on the phone with those suppliers and vendors and distributors, this is the time for you to reinforce your business relationships. Keeping in regular contact with your suppliers so that you are able to pivot your marketing campaigns as you need it. Now, back to that Harvard Business Review article that I was reading. What I found interesting was that the vast majority of global companies actually have no idea what their risk of exposure to what is going on in Asia actually looks like, because few, if any, actually have complete knowledge of the locations of all the companies that provide the parts to their direct suppliers. And that makes sense, right? You have no idea where the fabric for your dresses is coming from. It's not your job to know that, but it is your job to understand how that's going to impact your business. So this is not a time to just be blindly fumbling along and hoping and praying that the stock is going to be there when you need it. The state of the economy means that it is time to step up and be the CEO of your business. You have to take charge. Do not be at the mercy at others. Don't live in fear and don't have those blinders on. You must be asking your suppliers what is in stock, what is confirmed as already having left port, so you know that it's on its way. Ask them how they're going to be allocating stock. Is it first in, best dressed? Is it pre-orders? Are you going to have to indent order? Are you going to have to order and pay in advance? You need to know when your stock is going to arrive and how much of it there is going to be. The fact is, by asking these questions, you'll actually be showing those suppliers and vendors that you are the kind of retailer that they should be working with. You totally have your crap together. You understand your business. And when that happens, you're going to be at the top of their list of retailers to call. Now, next up, I am always an advocate of retail and e-commerce stores never fully relying on product sales to keep them in business. So, now that your supply chain is disrupted, you need to think about what else you can provide. And generally, that is services. So think about it. I have a client who has a fashion store, and one of the things that she introduced was style consults. So you could book in a one-on-one appointment with her style team, and you had to pay for that. Now, I'm not saying that you have to pay for it in your circumstance, but I think it was $100 or $150. Maybe, no, I don't think it was $150. Maybe it was $99. $99 so that you could have that one-on-one session. The stylist would bring all the clothes out to you, and then that $99 went towards a credit to whatever you bought on the day. So, is this something that you can implement? And if you can't provide the service yourself, is there somebody that you can team up with who can and give you a referral fee in the process? Okay, I'm just going to take a pause here because I see people taking this advice and they go and team up with, let's call it a stylist for sake of the example, and then they don't get anything for it. Customer pays the stylist directly, but the retailer, whilst they might get the sale of some clothes, gets nothing out of it. Now, this is a business decision for you to make, but ideally, in my opinion, you should be taking some kind of referral fee. Or you should have a situation where the stylist comes in for free, but gets a percentage of the amount that the customer spends. So it can work either way. But when you're in these joint venture partnerships, nobody is working for free here, okay? Remember, you're stepping up, you're being the CEO, and you are in this to make money. Customer is going to win because you are supplying a service that your competitors aren't. The stylist is going to win because they're getting access to new customers and a new income stream. And you're going to win because customers are going to come to you. Now, if you have an e-commerce store, maybe that's not the type of service that you need to offer. So for example, we sold baby goods and we had people always asking if we would run, because we ran lots of events, if we would run pediatric first aid classes. Now, we weren't qualified to do that, but what we did was team up with somebody else who could. And we teamed up with a national company. So they had locations all around Australia, and you just booked using our code. And as a result, we got a referral fee for every booking that came through. But we didn't have to do anything other than tell our existing customers that this was a service that they could purchase. I mean, again, this is win, win, win. It is a customer experience to be having these options. You win because you're sending out a few emails, or you're popping it on a flyer in your store, or you're posting it on social media. And the person that you're partnering up with wins because they get access to a whole new client base that they never had before. So what kind of services, when you think outside the box, could you affiliate with? So that is partner with, and either take a referral fee or bring them into your business to provide a service. I mean, the style consult thing could even work online. I've seen this done online so many times where the customer has a one-on-one session on Zoom, and then they get sent a list of products that the stylist recommends for them. So you've got to be thinking outside the box because a shrinking economy means that you have to be looking at other ways that you can prop up your revenue. So the three most affected countries by coronavirus are China, Japan, and South Korea. Now, together, those three Asian countries contribute around 24% of the entire world economy, with a trading volume of over $720 billion US. So you can see how this is going to have worldwide ramifications, and not just because of panic buying. So when that happens, what do? Well, you start shopping local. And I know this sounds easy, and I'm going to preface this with so many raw ingredients come from China that your local artisans might actually find that they're being affected as well. However, now is the time to go out and see who in your local community or in your country is manufacturing the products that your customers want. Now, sometimes this does mean that the product is going to come with a premium price tag, but is now the time to start bringing those in? Are people going to be buying more products that are produced locally? And my guess is probably yes, because the fear of the unknown is instilled in so many people. So now is the time to go out there and be part of your community and see what those local artisans have, what those local producers and manufacturers have that you can bring into your retail or e-commerce store. And this is kind of part of my next strategy as well, which is now it's time to analyze your product mix. It is time to start bringing in lines that maybe you've thought about, but never quite committed to. You've maybe thought, you know what, my customers might like to have that, but I'm not quite prepared to put the money into it to see if it's going to fly. Well, when customers can't get the things that they wanted, they're going to start looking outside the box. They're going to start seeking alternatives. So what are those lines that you've toyed with bringing in, but never been quite sure of? And additionally, is this the time when you start expanding your number of SKUs per category? So what I'm saying is if you have a product that maybe has a price point of $15 and $20, is it maybe time to now bring in a $25 product? It's a great time to be testing it out, but you're also covering more bases. If suppliers run low or completely disappear of one of those products, then you still have something else for your customers to buy. Now, I know a lot of retail and e-commerce store owners deliberately curate their range and keep choices in one particular product niche quite small, but now might be the time that you start taking on new lines so that you can make sure that you're going to weather this storm. Now, I mentioned earlier that I don't quite get what this panic buying of toilet paper is all about, because we get our toilet paper delivered, we get our groceries delivered, so I can't quite see why people need to be stockpiling at ridiculous levels. I can understand having a spare couple of rolls and a couple of extra bags of pasta, but not like the guy in front of me at the shops who had 12 bags of oats. I mean, who needs 12 bags of oats, right? So if you don't already, and this one's going out to the bricks and mortar retailers, you have to have e-commerce facilities in place. If you've been putting this in the too hard basket, now is the time that you make the leap, you make that commitment, because it's guaranteed that there are going to be less people out and about. As this fear sets in, people are going to avoid shopping malls, they're going to avoid places where there's going to be lots of people. So how are you still going to get your products to them? How are you still going to make money when your footfall is drastically reduced? And the answer quite simply is e-commerce. You need to be able to deliver your items to your customers. And if you're not doing that, you are guaranteed to lose money to your competitors, because customers are looking for the easiest option. And if they can't get it from you, they're just going to go to Amazon, or they're just going to go to one of their competitors and buy it with the click of the button. So if you haven't already gotten your e-commerce in place, now is the time. This is the push that you have been waiting for. Now, the number of departures from Chinese ports has decreased this month by 20%. So it's not a case of if your retail business is going to be affected, but when, how much, and what you're going to do about it. Are you going to be proactive, or are you going to be reactive? Now, I've seen some people suggesting that you stock up on necessities, and clearly I'm not a fan of that. But here's something I want you to think about. There is an opportunity cost that comes with having money tied up in stock just for the sake of having money tied up in stock. So if you have $1,000 worth of inventory that you've stocked up on because you worry that you might not be able to get it, instead of maybe you've normally got $350 worth of stock on the shelf, that $650 that's sitting in idle inventory what could you have bought with that and sold and then reinvested over and over again? So every day that that excess stock sits on your shelf is money that you are losing. I saw one person suggesting that you should go out and stock up on swing tags and business cards. Really? Like if you go and buy $1,000 worth of swing tags and business cards, that's $1,000 worth of inventory that you can't buy. So remember opportunity cost. The money that sits on your shelf, and it doesn't matter whether it's in bags or business cards or swing tags or stock, but every day that it sits there, it means that it's not making you money. And I don't know about you, but when the economy is tightening, I do not want to have to be worried about not making money. So this is where having a plan with options, with fallbacks, comes in. What's going to happen if you can't get business cards or swing tags or paper bags? What is the next best option? This is what is going into your plan. This is supplier A. If we can't get it there, we can get it from supplier B. If we can't get it there, we can get it from supplier C. If we can't get it there, do we really need it? You must have a plan. Now, I could tell you that having a proactive plan in place will be the secret to the stores that survive and the stores that struggle, but I won't. I will let you discover it for yourself. The advice I will give you right now is that it is time to step up into that CEO role of your business, regardless of whether you're a solo operator or you've got a chain of stores. You must forecast. You must know your numbers, know what sells and when. Make sure you've got those fallbacks, the plan A's, the plan B's, the plan C's, and step away from the computer and step away from your shop counter and go out and collaborate, communicate with your suppliers, with your customers, with your competitors. Because this is going to be the time when you're going to see a lot of retail and e-commerce stores simply fall by the wayside because they didn't do this. But when you do this, when you have a plan, when you're prepared to take those protectionist blinkers off and be out there in your community, in your retail community, that's when you're going to be the business that not only survives, but thrives. I love that saying. So I'd love to hear from you. How are you going to cope with coronavirus and how it affects your retail business? Come and join me over in my free Facebook group, The Retail Academy, and let's talk about it. Let's do that collaboration and that networking in the retail community and see how we can help each other. I'll pop a link to the free Facebook group into the comments, but you can just search The Retail Academy over on Facebook groups and you can request to join there. I hope to see you inside the group and let's continue this conversation. Until next week, be profitable. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.